Bumblebee V2 review. It's here, guys. Let's check it out. All right, guys, here we are. It's like 7 months later, and now the Bumblebee V2 is out. You should be able to get this in two different versions, the analog version and the HD version, which I have here. It has the DJI Air module on board. They have done some things to this one that are updated versus the older one. Well, we're going to talk about those things in this video, and we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing that's different, or why should you buy this one versus the older one, the version 1 had a 2mm bottom plate, and the new version has a 2.5mm bottom plate. So they thickened it up. They also thickened it up around the edges of where the bolts connect on the bottom of the frame. That makes a big difference when you're going in to crash this thing, because Cinewhoops around the world that have been coming to me from different companies have sometimes put too thin of an edge on the carbon where the screw goes, and when you crash, it breaks that bottom plate where that screw goes through the post to the top plate. So that's been an issue with certain Cinewhoops out there that have too cheap a carbon fiber. And speaking of carbon fiber, we have T700 carbon fiber on here. So this is a nicer carbon fiber than what you'll see on a lot of different quads out there. It also has a top mount battery, which is very standard out there. You can go all the way up to something like a 4S 1550 if you want, and then you'll get about 6 to 7 minutes flight time. They also changed the antenna configuration, which a lot of people didn't quite notice on some of the reviews out there, but this time they put both the antennas sticking up off the top. The last version had the antennas going up and down, and I think this is just a little bit better setup because you always have clearance when making a turn. You're still at the same trajectory there, so you should always have a good signal back to your goggles. But DJI just released the new 50 megabit update, and the video on here, now that I have it updated with the 50 megabit transmission rate, really looks good. I mean, it's like night and day. Even the DVR almost looks like 1080p. It's just spectacular and really nice. I also like that they have a new adjustable angle camera mount on here as well. Really nice, solid looking 3D print, multicolor there. Really nice print. It doesn't look chintzy at all. It doesn't look like it has a lot of bumps and frays and edges. So it does have a little release plate right here where you can pull it back, and this will slide in and out. It fits my GoPro Hero 7 and it'll fit the 8. And they've also expanded the frame size, so it is a little bit heavier, around 356 grams, whereas the last one was 142 millimeters, and now the new one from wheelbase to wheelbase, motor to motor, is 145 millimeter. And I opened this quad up, and inside here we have a single layer stack with a flight controller. It's an F4 flight controller with built-in 40 amp ESCs. They also make two versions of this one. It's 4S and a 6S model. On the very back here, we have the XT60. These two antennas screw on and off. If you get the DJI version, they have these TPU mounts on there, which make it really nice and easy to get the antennas on and off. And I like that they're vertical this time. That makes a big difference. They also have a TPU set up in here for an XM Plus tray underneath here, just underneath the carbon, with access to your bind button. And on the back, we have these two holes, which are actually for TBS Crossfire antenna coming off the back if you want to do an Immortal T. It also has this other hole back here for any type of 5/8 transmission antenna you want to put back there, which is kind of nice. And we have 4 LEDs on the very back. We also have a port back here for Betaflight. That is a USB-C port. Just above that, we have the micro SD card slot for recording from your air module. So what's neat about that is that they have a ribbon cable which comes from the air module all the way to the back right here. You can see that white spot, and then it comes out and it's mounted right in the very rear. So no longer do we need to kind of get down inside this hole right here and try to put the SD card in there. That was kind of the hard part about the original version 1 that they changed up on this one. So iFlight's kind of bringing out some new technology to us here for the DJI Air module, which would actually probably work great on other Cinewhoops out there if you wanted to just have easy access to your SD card. That is kind of cool, and I like that iFlight. And also we have on the other side another port which basically brings our DJI Air module USB-C port to a vertical point. So they've added a 90-degree port on there, and that allows us to be able to go ahead and update the firmware once you get it, because you're going to want to do the latest and greatest update, and you have to activate this module when you get it. Now I got the 4S version, so mine has 1408 3600 kV motors. And these are the Zing motors. They have 4 bolts on the bottom plate. They have TPU bumpers. And might I suggest to iFlight that you guys take some TPU bumpers and maybe just put like on the outside edges right here, maybe some very tiny ones, just to kind of give these bolts right here a little bit of protection when you guys hit concrete or crash. That might save this really small part of the carbon right here from breaking in future crashes. That might be something that iFlight or some of these companies could work on if you guys are watching this video. And on this model, again, it looks like we have plenty of protection for the camera up front. You have these foam bumpers that go all the way around your ducts. You've got 2 posts in the front, TPU camera mount there for your DJI Air module camera. And we have new redesigned ducts, which seem to be about 20% to, I guess, maybe 30% quieter than what we have before. And we're rocking the new Nazgul 3-inch Cinewhoop props, which is pretty nice. They work pretty well for some big air maneuvers, or even some straight ahead, sort of quieter flying than we had before with the V1. And this model also comes pre-tuned, so it does have a factory tune on here from iFlight, and it doesn't have any vibes, which is really, really nice. So let's go ahead out in the field now. Let's do a little flying with this. Let me show you some epic footage, and then we'll come back in and I'll give you my final thoughts and opinion on what was the best Cinewhoop out there for several months now, over 6 months now. A very good buy, and here we are with version 2 with some new changes. Let's go head outside now and let's do some flying. Here we go. Okay guys, let's go ahead and have some fun with the Bumblebee V2. Here we go. So first impression, it's kind of what I was expecting from iFlight. They have been really raising the bar in 2020. This year, everything that I get from them in the box, it's comparable to Gep RC these days, so they're really, really leveling up and changing the game. Now right here I switched into acro, and I have to say that the factory tune that came on the Bumblebee V2 is spot on. It does perform a little bit better in acro mode. I don't think it will power loop. I had some washout with some power loops, but it did handle some decent dives, and it didn't do a lot of tumbling like this one right here, a flip to a tree dive. That's where you can really throw off the flight controller. And I didn't have an issue there, so that was actually pretty impressive that it would handle that much of a dive with a GoPro on there. So extra weight on there tends to throw off the flight controller sometimes, just extra force. But all the lines look really nice, and the best thing about DJI digital FPV goggles is that I can really see through the trees. I can see the tree branches, where I'm going. I can make new lines that I couldn't before with analog cameras. And every once in a while you'll slip up. And right here, this one just came out and got me. That was really hard to see right there. But foam prop ducts, they really do a good job at keeping you up in the air. And I did have a nice hard crash in the middle of the field, and I was able to fly back up because there was no sticks up in the ducts, and I was just able to punch out and come right back up out of the bushes, which was really cool. But you can play around with these quads. They are quite durable. These make great trainers if you're brand new in this sport. You can get away with a lot. And I think with a thicker frame, this is going to be a lot more durable for the beginner guys. Now, if you are advanced flyer or intermediate, this is also going to make you really, really happy. You can do indoor flying with it. You can do outdoor flying. But it handles quite well. I'm really liking this. And so I just decided to make up sort of a new move. I don't know if I've ever seen this before. Reverse touch and go. That one didn't quite work out. I need to get a slide in there. I want to get a slide going backwards. Get a slide. There we go. That was cool. So made up a new move, reverse touch and go. That was really fun. So now we're going to try some big air flying. And right now I'm out in the gorge and out past in the winery area of Hood River. And man, it is windy out here today. Right now it was probably blowing 15 miles per hour. And this quad, it's handling. It did do some decent flips and rolls and some low flying. It always looks great on the Hero 7. If you're looking for cinema, this is the way to do it. You can really get creative with your shots. And here, just taking a smaller gap, made it through, nice. And I also wanted to see out here in this environment, a little bit of wind out here, how well it would handle this type of dive. This is kind of a little bit of a dive, a little bit of a wonky kind of washout right there. It kind of tumbled a little bit on me. But again, if you want to learn freestyle or acro with this quad, take the GoPro off there and just record your DVR. There you can see the trees are really whipping right there. Yeah, 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, no joke, on just about any quad. But 5-inch 6S, 4S quads, race quads, they fly a little bit better. There's a little bit of tumble there. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with what they've released on the HD version. The V2 version is looking pretty good. See if I can land on this stool. Not quite. All right. Let's go ahead and go back in the studio now for some final thoughts. Here we go, guys. All right, guys, welcome back in from the flight tests. So what did you think about the footage? You can get some pretty cool footage from these Cinewhoops. Now, what was pretty cool was that I did have a crash during that flight test. One of the days that I flew it, I crashed in the trees out at the tree farm, and I was all over the place. And when I landed, I noticed, hey, I'm kind of like camera up here, so I'm just going to see if I can boost out of it. And since it is a Cinewhoop, it has all the ducts covered, and I didn't have any sticks up inside the ducts, so I just fired it up and I took right straight off out of the ground. That was kind of nice. Now, one thing about this quad is that it is noticeably quieter. So guys that are wanting something quieter, the 3-inch Cinewhoop category is probably the noisiest category out there as far as FPV race quads. And these guys are not really meant for freestyle if you're brand new to Cinewhoops. I would say it would do mild freestyle. I can do some flips and rolls with it, but when I try to do big power loops or really hard dives with it, I was getting some tumble in this one. So this one's not really going to be a big power loop king. It will fly better and perform better freestyle if you take the GoPro off the top here and you just record from the DVR on your air module. That will make it perform just a little bit better. You might be able to pull off those power loops that you're looking to do. But one thing that I hope that maybe iFlight will take in consideration next time was what I noticed about the frames. One of the cons is that this ribbon cable goes all the way to the back here, and right here through that hole, it could get poked with a stick, and then you've got a broken ribbon cable. They are replaceable and you can get parts for them, but that's just one thing to point out. If you buy this one, you might want to take something solid and just put over top of this back here, cover that up a little bit, and then you won't have to worry about it getting poked or shredded. And you can also see another part of the cable on the very bottom down here that's poking into the flight controller USB-C port. And that's just a little plug right there, but I don't think that's going to break off. But that's another thing, another spot right there that you might want to watch out for. So if you don't connect to Betaflight for some reason, you might want to check that didn't pop loose. One thing to think about there. But I think overall they had about 6 months to think about the design on this one. It is a little bit heavier than the original version, which I think is kind of odd, but they did add some extra parts and pieces on here, so that's not surprising. And honestly, you're not really going to feel the weight difference that much. If I flew the V1 and the V2, as far as flight characteristic goes, I think it wouldn't be totally noticeable. If you want to go for the original V1 and you don't mind that 2mm bottom plate, yeah, you can save a little bit of money by getting that cheaper one. But in my opinion, I would go for the 2.5mm one, and that's going to give you a little more thickness as well outside of where that bolt is. And this is the weakest point of the frame right there for most Cinewhoops out there. So I think they have a good release, and I can easily give this one 2 thumbs up for this review. I think this quad is going to be another banger for iFlight, and I think this one will sell pretty easy. I didn't have any problems with it or any issues with mine, so I'm happy with it, and I'm going to continue flying this one, and maybe I'll put some crossfire on this one and send it out there a little bit further. But I like the new design, and the antenna's up top in the back, much better design as well. So I'm happy with this one. Guys, take care. I'm Justin Davis. Be safe out there, and happy FPV. I'll see you on the next one.